under intelligence and creativity, there is a small section on problem solving, which we'll be doing today. Okay. Now, see, the point is that this is a very generalized thing only, except that they've gone into trying to break it down into as much as possible, as simple as possible. That's it. So it's going to be a breeze actually today. So problem solving. So what is a problem? Anything which comes and stands in between us and a goal is a problem. Okay. And problem solving is nothing but getting rid of that problem so that I can walk towards my goal. End of chapter. All of you go home. Okay. So basically, again and again, they have talked all about this in very minute detail. So I'll take the trouble of going through that. So the thought process involved in a person's effort to remove obstacles in the way to achieve the goal state is called problem solving, right? So that's what I told right now. So between me and the goal, anything or anybody that stands in between is a problem. If I'm going to do this class and then Prahash keeps messaging something or the other in between, he'll become my problem. No, like that.
Very good example.
So we talked, out in problem solving, one of the main skills which we'll be using is critical thinking. Basically, small, every little thing which we think about, how to, get out of that thing is critical thinking. So that will solve the problems that we're going through. So what are the different stages or different states that we are in? So first thing is the original state, that is where we are. So if I am in, today we are all new joinees in the MA psychology course. So my destination is, my goal is MA psychology. I should get that master degree. Okay. So where is my original state? My original state or initial stage is, I'm already a graduate. I just registered to MA psychology. So that is my initial stage. So, but what is my goal stage is getting the master degree of MA psychology. Got it? So it is very simple. Initial stage is where I am. Goal stage is where I have to go. Goal or end state. So end state is what is desired by the person and what is defined by the person. So I am desiring MA degree. So if somebody else desires an MSc degree is their goal. So it is a desire to attain something. A goal is not something which somebody else tells for us. It is, if I am the person who is doing it, so my desired goal is the goal. Okay. If I say I want to do only PG diploma, and if you say no, only MA only is good for psychology, then that is not my goal. If my goal is PG diploma, my goal is PG diploma. I'll do only 1 year. Right. So that is my desire. Second is what is defined by the person. Like I said, I am defining that my goal is PG diploma and only 1 year I will study. So that will become my goal. So for a goal, we have to desire it and define it. Okay. Then who's the other important person is me, person, or the operator. So it can be called a person or the operator. A person who wants to go from initial stage to the goal stage is called a person or an operator. So simple, no? So now in all these things, what is the thing between me, the initial stage and the goal stage? Whatever space is there, no, that is called problem space, right? That is the space where problems can come. Like problems like assignments have to be finished, one hurdle. Practicum has to be finished, one hurdle. We have to do classes in our regional center, another hurdle. We have to go and write a final examination. That's another hurdle. All these problems in between, we are not getting ruled paper with 4 centimeters margin. That is one small problem. We are not getting enough time to do our assignments because we are all working a day job. Another problem. When we come back home, our family is like creating a havoc, not letting us study. Another problem. And then finally, when we're sitting to study, we're feeling very sleepy. Another problem. Okay. Like this, there are a lot of problems which comes in between the initial stage to the goal stage. All right. So this space between initial and goal state is called problem space. Problem space is where problems come, problems occur, right? They're not using any creativity in naming the stages. They just name it as it is. All right. And fifth and most important one is the rules. Rules. That means there are certain rules for attaining the goal. right? What is the rules in our case? The rules is that we have to do the assignment only by March 31st. After that, they will not accept it. Then we have to do the practicum in this format only. That is our rule. We have to go and write our exam. We have to register for second year in March. Like, I don't even know what psychology is by now. But by the time, I already have to decide what specialization I have to take in second year in March.
Anna.
Okay. Who's the shouting? Okay. So
Come.
You're mute.
Okay, now you heard me.
who muted me, man?
It's me, sorry, by mistake.
There's some rules in the thing. Nobody gets to mute.
I know. I was trying to mute Vidya. See, she's still talking.
See, she has a problem with...
Oh, again, I muted Seema now. Sorry.
Okay. So 5 things we understood, right? There are rules for any game. Even to play a small game of cards, we have rules like that. To go from here to our goal state, there will be a lot of rules and regulations. Those are very important. We have to follow those rules. And then, within the framework of the rules, we have to solve our problems and go to our goal state. So there are 5 things. So again, initial state or the original state, the goal state, the person or the operator. 4th one is the problem space, and 5th one is the rules. All right, I hope it's clear. Okay. Now, this problem space is the place where we are talking about. So what will we do in the problem space? Okay. There are multiple elements that are required to be organized in a particular manner in the problem state. Okay. So how do you go through the problem space with the rules and all those things? By coherence, correspondence, and relationship to the background knowledge. Okay, what are the elements we have over here? See, connecting elements in a meaningful manner. See, when you talk about elements, what they're just saying is that what are the things that are, part of the problem. Like say today, so now I'm a working woman. So I'm going to work. Then I have to reach there on time. But then I'm not able to reach there on time. So what is the problem? The problem is that I'm late. I should get there on time. But what are the other elements which are contributing to my problem? So the child is not getting up early in the morning. I have to cook breakfast and lunch and snacks and everything and pack for them. Then I have to manage, haggle with the milkman in the morning, because he doesn't want to give extra half packet of milk. Then we have to the maid is she comes in her own sweet time and she creates one big, when I want to go to bath, then only she wants to wash the bathroom. We're having this fight every day morning. All right. So, and then the husband who doesn't want to participate or help me in any of these things, and he gets up in his own sweet time and he demands a hot breakfast. So I have to keep waiting to see when he will get up, when he will come to the table, and then only make the dosa. I can't make it in advance and keep it ready. See, like this, all these multiple elements are contributing towards a problem. So between these elements, how do we solve it? So we need coherence, correspondence, and the relationship to the background knowledge. So connecting elements in a meaningful manner is called coherence. The way I connected right now. Okay. Correspondence, see, requires close correspondence between internal representation and elements of the problem space. Basically nothing. So these elements and how they are interacting with the problem space. The problem space is that I'm getting late, but how each of these elements are corresponding or contributing towards it, and how they're working between themselves. All those dynamics is what it's all about. And relationship to the background knowledge should not be unmatched or mismatched. See, it's like the match the following in the test, even if we do, if we leave something hanging, you don't, if you don't do something, it's wrong. If you mismatch also, it is something wrong. So like if I take the spicy food, which I made for my husband and gave it to my son, it's also wrong. If I forgot to pack lunch for my husband also, it's wrong. Like that. So there should not be unmatched elements. There should not be mismatched elements. We have to, tie all the loose ends. Okay, so that is how we solve the problem space. Now, problem solving begins with
Sunita,
what
can
are-
you please repeat it? Yeah. Sunita, please repeat. No?
Which one? The coherence, correspondence, and relationship. That bit.
All
What?
See, okay, I'll tell you. Wait.
Yeah. Just one more. Yeah.
Okay, I'll tell you. Just a second.
Which page number are you on now?
I am on page number 68.
Okay.
Problem space. Okay. So what does it say? See, problem space, initial state, goal state, and operator combine to form the problem space, right? So the problem space includes a number of elements in it that are required to be organized in a particular manner. So that's what I was telling about various people and various problems that we have in the morning, which is contributing to me to become late, right? Now, a successful understanding of the problem space would require coherence, correspondence, and relationship to the background knowledge. So coherent understanding of the problem space refers to connecting the elements in a meaningful manner. So basically, all these, each element that I talked are separate elements, but then we're connecting it to each other. I'm not able to go to the bath because my maid is washing the bathroom at that point of time. And the next time when I'm trying to go over there, my son is sitting over there in the toilet for half an hour. The next time I want to go over there, my husband wants to have a hot dosa, something like that. So we are connecting the elements to the problem space, okay, in a meaningful manner, that this is how it is actually creating a problem in the problem space. Okay, a successful understanding also requires a close correspondence between the internal representation and the elements of the problem space. See, internal representation, here we're again making a reference to our memory wala chapter over here. Internal representations and the elements of the problem space. So all these problem space elements are there, but then the way I am perceiving those elements in my head, how I am perceiving that they are the problems, this is how the problem is, it's becoming. It's basically, it's all shades of the same gray, okay? So it is like how my internal representation in my head is about these elements and the connection it has with my problem space. And then the third one is none of the elements should be left unmatched. Yeah, none of the elements should be left unmatched, and also none of them should be mismatched. Therefore, proper matched connection should be made among the elements. So again, what we are doing over here is, like I said, we are just matching the elements. See, we have a background story already in our head. This is not first time I'm going to work. I'm going to work from past 20 years. So in 20 years, this has been happening. I already have the background story in my head. I already know how the elements are working. I already know, this is going to be this way, and I have a perception about my element also. Okay, my husband will not change, my child will not change, my maid is very busy. So what I am doing is I am adjusting to all of them. But the point is that I have an internal representation in my head that nobody will change. I only have to change. So that is an internal representation in my head. So what I will do is I will correspond in that particular way. And when and the background story the relationship to the background knowledge, right? So how everything gets matched. It's a little bit funny, but anyway, so I'm not really making a good explanation out of it. If anybody feels they can tell it better, please feel free to pitch in right here. Okay, anybody? Okay, so I want to move on to problem solving, how problem solving begins. Okay, so there is an obstacle between initial stage and the goal state, right? This is like I'm giving a summary of all these things that has happened. So there is a problem or an obstacle which comes between the initial state and the goal state. And then the goal state is something that we've desired and defined by the operator, the person who's doing it. Okay, and then there is some rules, which is a framework for the way we have to do it. And that means to convert from the initial state to goal state, we need to problem solve. That's all is problem solving. Now to example for this, what they have given is like yesterday, the last time when Seema spoke, she's talked about this experiment, the chimpanzee experiment, the Kohler's experiment with the chimpanzee, which was done in 1927. From that time, we are referring to the same experiment. We didn't do anything worthwhile after that. Okay, so they put a hungry chimpanzee in a closed cage. with bananas. Now this hungry chimpanzee becomes our operator or the person. Okay, so that person is going to have a problem. So we put a hungry chimpanzee in a closed cage with bananas, which is hanging from the roof. Okay, so what does the chimpanzee desire? The chimpanzee desires the bananas. So the bananas becomes the goals. Okay, so hungry chimpanzee is on the floor, the initial stage. Okay, and the chimpanzee is hungry, that is the initial stage. The chimpanzee is the operator. Okay, I'm referring like this, but I'm not a chimpanzee. Okay, so the chimpanzee becomes an operator and the hanging bananas becomes the goals. Okay, now the thing is that in the room, there are 3 boxes on the floor. The point is that it is designed in such a way that the chimpanzee has to put one box on top of the other, then only it can climb on top and get the bananas. That is the only way possible. That is how the whole cage has been designed. Okay, but the chimpanzee has to try to get the banana. But what happens is this chimpanzee, being a chimpanzee, is first going to try to all its level best to like jump and dive and all those things to get the bananas. All right, but it was not happening. So now the chimpanzee has a problem. The problem space is the space between the chimpanzee on the floor and the banana on the roof. That is the problem space. Okay, and the problem is it needs to get the banana, but there is nothing to hold on to. How will the chimpanzee go up? So the chimpanzee can come closer to the bananas only by putting all the 3 boxes together in a vertical manner. What is that? That is the rule. Right? So now we understood all the elements, whatever we have studied, right? So after a series of irrelevant behaviors, the chimpanzee suddenly solved the problem. Right? How did the chimpanzee suddenly solve the problem? Why didn't it solve in the beginning? Why did it have to irrationally try a number of times? Right? This is where we're talking about internal representation and background story, wherein when you already have, sorry?
Illumination, you remember?
Exactly. That is exactly. So now the thing is that in the mind of chimpanzee, so the chimpanzee already has information. The chimpanzee already has what it takes to get the banana by doing the box thing. But the chimpanzee was irrational first. It was hungry, so its mind was not working. Like for all of us, when we are hungry, we can't think through. So we start shouting at everybody around us. But the chimpanzee also was hungry, so it didn't think through. It tried its level best to jump. It got angry and all those things it did. But after a while, it sat down and it got tired. When it got tired, it sat down and then it started thinking. And like the night bulb moment it came, because it was able to think about it, because for it already in its head, it has an idea that the boxes could be put one on top of the other and it could stand on the box, because the box will take its weight. So that thing is already there in the background. The chimpanzee did not utilize it. When it became calm, it was able to access the background information which is already available in the chimpanzee's head and take that information, make it into a practical way of doing things, climb on top of the box and get the bananas. So that is what we're talking about, internal representation. And it resulted from internal representation and understanding of the problem, which was continuously going on in the chimpanzee's unconscious. Okay, and as an insight by the Kohler and the Gesalt psychologists. So we talked about insight, like just now they said illumination and all that, right? So that happens because in the unconscious the problem is ongoing, and it goes and taps into our reserve in the background, and it comes up with the solution. So that's what they mean. Then we have
just to add, this is also very, very important. Like you said, it's so old, and why are people still talking? Actually, this is the first time we were discussing, I guess, about problem solving and the word insight. Insight, or that is what I mean. It was, and again relating it back to that incubation stage and illumination, where you're not thinking consciously about the problem, but it is somewhere in the background. You're doing something else. And then suddenly, like a flash, it comes. So that is the insight which we get into it. And that is that illumination time. So this whole, although it may sound very simple and straightforward, what's the big deal about this problem solving? But imagine it from the chimpanzee's point of view, to be able to stack those boxes, and get on top of it and get the bananas. So it was, I think, through this experiment, he has done this. And this is also used in the education system a lot. How to, evoke that in the students. So how to involve them in the process of problem solving. So that is why this experiment is very, very important. I think it might be coming up later also. So anyway,
we are having a separate chapter on this. It'll come up in that.
Yeah, Kohler's
Kohler's has been referred in multiple places, so it makes sense to use it wherever it's relevant.
Also, it could be the very first experiment which had happened in 1927. That's why it's been remembered.
And it's very simple also, right? It makes sense. Okay, so we'll move on to the topologies of problems. All right. So typologies of problems. Okay, so well-defined or ill-defined, right? So something when there is a problem, okay. See, we need to first understand the problem as to what it is, what is the problem, what exactly is the rules, what exactly is the problem, what is our actual goal, is this the right path? So if there is a lot of clarity about all these things only, we'll be able to problem solve in a very good manner. So we call that as well-defined problem, where the initial state is also well-defined. So where you're starting from, that is also well-defined. Then the goal state is also well-defined, where you want to go. And then the operator, see, we are talking about a chimpanzee being one operator, but in most of the times, the operator in any problem may not be just one, right? So there will be multiple operators also in many problems. So how many operators are there? What are their roles? There should be a clear, then apart from that, what are the rules? Clear and explicit rule. After doing something, people should not say, no, this is not right. This is not as per the rules. Then you go this side and they say, no, it's not right. So there should be a clarity of what rules, what is the framework under which they have to operate. So all this, when we have, there is a clear definition, like, in the Kohler's case also, we had a clear definition that it has to be done this way only. It has all the rules. The rules is that it has to use those 3 boxes on one top of the other, then only it will be able to reach the bananas. There was no other option given to the chimpanzee. It has to stack. This is the rule. So that is so clear. There is only one operator, that is the chimpanzee. He didn't have anybody over there to work with. So like that, and the goal state is very clear. It was hungry, it needed bananas. There is nothing else in that. So it was well defined over there. Now, the other side we have ill-defined, right? So basically nothing but, there is no definition of what you want to do. So here the example they have given is that, like, creating a painting. When you start, there is no clear definition of how the painting will turn out, unless until you're copying a Van Gogh painting or something and you want to sell it off like a fraud. There is a clear definition. But apart from that, if I want to create my own, that's why they say creation and not copying a painting. So if I want to create my own painting, there is no clear goal state as to what it will become. As it happens, it will happen. You have a fair idea of what you want. I want to draw a monkey. I want to draw a beautiful lady. I want to draw Mona Lisa. So you have a vague idea what color you will use, what shade you will use, what trees you will put, what type of leaves you put. You have no idea. As you do it, you will do it, right? So there is no clear definition. There is no clear rules as to this is how it should be. Like, so that is what is ill-defined. You can't solve such solving problems like those. Might look, the creation of painting looks like something good. You can't see it like a problem. My example would be like, this mother-in-law and daughter-in-law issues. There is no definition of what the problem is. All right, there's no definition of what the problem is. Sometimes people, mother-in-law and daughter-in-law, fight just because they're expected to fight. They're expected to, because the serials are like that, even if the same thing, if my neighbor said, I would be like, okay. But if my mother-in-law said, did she have any ulterior motive? Because mother-in-laws are not supposed to have, any good intentions for daughter-in-law. I've seen so many serials. This is how the mother-in-laws, they say something nice and later on there is something bad in it. Like that, there is no clear definition of what the problem is. So everything is taken vaguely. There seems to be some kind of a problem, and then we work towards it. There is no set rules over there. You should do this. You should not do this. No rules. Jo bhi laga, we feel that it will work. It will work. If it goes in bombs, it bombs. something like that. And there is no clear goal state where you want to be. You want to be in the good books of the mother-in-law. You want to have a good relationship with the mother-in-law. What is a definition of good relationship? Where you are heading, you have no idea, right? So this is like a clear idea of ill-defined. So that is why our marriages are all such shambles, because we don't know where we are heading. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, where my marriage is heading. What is the goal state? No clear idea. As and when the problems are there, that much only we have clarity. There's only one rule: don't stray out of the marriage. No other rules are there. Okay, so have no clear idea about the rules and regulations, whose responsibility is what or what. We got married there, and blind faith we got married, and we are just running some path. As and when the path opens up, we take that road and we're running. Okay, so that, and we have two operators over here. See, this is a good example for multiple operators. And when the child comes, there is one more operator, like that. So this is ill-defined problem. Just 1 second. Then what else we have? Yes. What are other things? Problems of inducing structure. Okay, so they say like when you have something like bird to sky or fish to water, that means there is a proper structure to it, right? So, however, see, problems of inducing structure requires determining relationship among several elements of the problem. For example, taking analogy problem in which the operator is required to find a structure in some elements with clear defined rules. Okay, so solving the analogy problems requires 3 types of cognitive skills. Analogy problems is nothing but comparing one thing to another. Okay, so like they say, like the bird is to sky and the fish is to water. So we kind of like compare and you solve the problem. Okay, compare and get understanding of the problem. So solving this kind of analogy problems requires 3 types of skills. One is the process of attribute discovery, process of encoding, and process of comparing encoded attributes and evaluating attributes based on structure among the elements. Too complicated. Okay, anyway, so a process of attribute discovery. Okay, attribute is nothing but understanding. See, if you need to compare 2 things, you should know what is the attribute of this thing, or what is the, what do you say that, what do you say for attribute? What is the type, or what is the personality, or what is the description of this thing? Then only you will be, and the description of the other element, then only you can compare, right? So for analogy problems, we need to know what is the attributes, what is the what do you say, the plus and minus, or whatever is the definition of what is the attribute. Okay, and then process of encoding. Okay. What is that process of encoding? I wrote it down something. I forgot what it was. Okay, so what is the process of comparing encoded attributes and evaluating attributes based on structure among the elements? Okay, see, now we'll take the same this mother-in-law and daughter-in-law.
Sunita, no. So what you're saying is, see, in order to do that analogy, we need to know the features of each of those items, right?
Yeah,
so like, for example, we need to know that the bird flies in the sky and the fish is in the water. So we need to know those elements well, and we need to know the features well. Correct. Even to make that analogy, right? Is that what you're trying to say?
Right. That's what is that first thing. Process of encoding is what I'm struggling here with.
Yeah, so encoding is this, right? This is to this as that is to that kind of a thing, right? That is encoding, because when you decode, I think that's what it means. Anyway, you just move on and maybe we'll get.
Yeah. Right, inducing, see, basically problems of inducing structure. See, what is inducing structure is well-defining rules and elements. So it's all about getting a structure in the problem. So when there is no structure, it is going to be difficult. So what they're saying is, we are trying to get structure by encoding the attributes. Like, this is going to work with this only, that is going to work with that only, and then making a comparison, and then trying to find a solution to it. So that is how that problems of inducing structure works. So that is under that is only analogy and comparison. That's what we are talking about, right? So this is like how to find how to solve the problems of structure. There is no particular structure. See, when you can say birds to sky, there are ducks are to water only, right? So, but there are always exceptions. But then generally birds are to sky. So we are trying to find a feature which is related to a particular element, okay, and then a feature of a particular another element, and then we try to compare both and try to find what the problem is, something like that. Okay, then problems of transformation. Okay, it requires finding a sequence of operation to transform the initial state to the goal state. So they gave the really very pretty diagram over here. Right, can you see it? Yeah. So this is like, the children and all play this thing, right? Wherein there is this three sticks, and then there is 3 discs in one corner. Okay, you have to bring the 3 discs to the last stick, but in the same order. You cannot put the small one and then put the medium one and put the large one in the last one. You have to, the same order, you have to put the large one first, the middle one next, and the small one next. That is the order in which you have to take it to the goal state. But the this is called Tower of Hanoi, and usually it is played by all these our preschoolers and these little toddlers and all that. So here, if you see, there is a sequence by which you can do it, right? Like you have to first take the small one, put it in the middle one, and then you take the middle, the medium disc and put it in the 3rd stick, and then and then you take the small one in the middle and take it again to the 3rd one. Like that, you have a sequence which you have to follow for the disc to for the picture to become like the way it is over here, right? So that is called sequence, problems of transformation. It has to transform in a particular sequence, and then only it will get solved. So that is called problem of transformation. Okay. Okay, example, another example they've given is the anagram, right? Wherein we usually play it like a puzzle, right? They will change the words and the letters of a particular word, and then we have to find what that word is. So we try to rearrange it. So there is a proper sequence. We have to keep on trying. Like first we will try first letter with another letter, then another. If that doesn't work, take out that letter, put another letter. So we have a sequence we will follow. We will put all these letters in its in different orders to find out what is the actual word. So that is called, so you're transforming the element and changing the sequence so that you can find the the problem is solved. So that is called a problem of transformation. All right, a problem of then we, oh sorry, did I move on to problem of arrangement? Yes, okay, this was, so problems of arrangement is your anagram one, where the order of the letters of the words is changed. So in this problem of arrangement, the cognitive skill needed to solve an anagram is constructive search, by which operator systematically searches, examines reasonable combinations of letters until the meaningful sequence is found. So the cognitive skill we're talking about is constructive search. Okay. Then we go on to stages of problem solving. What time are we at?
Are you like planning to complete this chapter today?
What is the, see, there is nothing in this chapter, that's why. What is the time?
तू nothing बोल के इतना पढ़ा रही है, रुक जा. 9:40.
अच्छा, okay, ठीक है.
Fast, she sang.
I think we can do stages of problem solving and
we'll close it. Yeah, right. So
it's actually heavy duty. Yeah? It's not as simple as you're making it seem.
Stages of problem solving is actually same as the creative thinking ka stages. So we just talked about it, no? Preparation, incubation, illumination or insight, and verification. So this is what Seema taught us just in the last class, right?
And
so but this is what
it will also continue to be a part of goal setting theory also. I don't know where we'll study.
Actually, basically our mind works that way. So it will be a part of a lot of things, So stages of problem solving is usually like preparation, incubation, illumination, and verification, right? But they are now here, they are telling you about 4 stages which was told by Polya. Okay, so now I have no idea who he is, but it just says according to Polya. Okay, so Polya says 4 stages. First stage is define, understand, and think about the problem. Right. So first thing what we will do is, what the problem is, we have to first define what it is, first understand what the problem is, and then you have to think about the problem. So this is like sounds simple. So what is the thing? Identification of an actual problem, then finding out what are the attributes of the problem and which area of knowledge is involved in solving this problem, and collecting relevant information. So these are the 4 things they say. So for example, see if you have a headache. Okay, so identification of action from the problem. See, maybe, okay, say I am shouting at somebody. What is the actual problem? Am I really angry with that person? No, I'm having a headache. So that is the actual problem I have identified. Okay, headache. So I'm being rude to everybody. So identification problem. Okay, what is the attribute of the problem? I'm having a splitting headache. I'm not able to control it. The headache is not going away. Okay, and no matter what I eat or what I drink or what I put medicine, nothing is happening. So the attribute of the problem is it's not under my control. I need to do something about it. The headache is splitting. It's mostly in this area. It is in this area. So I recognize it as this area of knowledge involved in solving the problem. So in my general knowledge, I'm thinking that in this area means it might be my sinuses, which are acting up, which is creating a lot of pressure on my head, and it is giving me a headache. Yeah, this is the area of knowledge. Or we could also say that if I want to go to the doctor, which is the doctor I will go to, right? So I would probably choose a general physician. If I'm having a ear pain, I would choose a ENT. If I'm thinking it's my sinuses, I will again choose a ENT. So I'm choosing an area of knowledge to solve the problem, which is the doctor whom I should go to, right? So that is finding which area of knowledge will help us solve the problem is the other one. That's the area of knowledge. And collecting relevant information. So I could collect information as to when all I have this problem. Whenever I take my head bath, immediately I get a headache. So or whenever I have this particular peanuts, I get allergic reaction perhaps. So I'm collecting information which I will go and tell the doctor that whenever I do this thing, I'm getting this kind of headache, or when I drink water, it seems less, but again it comes back. Then when I am sleeping, it feels much better, but when I get up, slowly it gradually comes back. So all these are information which I will collect. Why? Because all this information will help me find the solution, right? So that is stage 1. So stage 1 is define, understand, and think about the problem, under which it is identification of the actual problem, finding the attributes of the problem, then identifying the area of knowledge involved in solving the problem, and collecting relevant information, right? Data collection is a part of everything. If you collect enough data, we can analyze it and come to a solution. All right. So that is the first stage. Second stage is devise a plan for solution. Right. So now you've collected data. Now we're going to devise a plan. How you're going to go about a solution. You're thinking that solution with all this data that I've collected, with the area of knowledge that I have collected, I can do something about it. So thinking of alternate ways to solve the problem, or preparing a flow chart of solution. So thinking of alternate ways to solve the problem. Now, if the same headache thing, I can go ask my my friend to press my head. That's alternate way to solve my problem. Or I could steam. My sinuses might clear and I might feel much better. Or I might go to the doctor, right? I might go to the doctor, or I might, go to an Ayurvedic doctor, or I can go to a homeopathic doctor. So these are all alternate ways to solve the issues. Okay. And then preparing a flow chart of solution. So how am I going to go about the solution? Okay. If I have to go to the doctor, I have to first I have to identify which doctor to go, which hospital to go, if there is a hospital near my house or not. If it is there, if the specialty of doctor is available there or not. Then if I have to go by an auto, or should I take a taxi? Because when I go by auto, there will be too much of noise. It might again affect my head more. Or there might be too much of dust. And if it is because of allergy, it might worsen my symptoms. right? Like that, I have to make a, then if I have to go, should I take my child or go? No. If I take my child, it is COVID situation time, should I take him to hospital or not? There could be, you know, the problem could become more, because instead of adding to my solution, I might actually add problems to what I already have. So should I do that or not? Should I leave him with my neighbor and go? Like that. To go to a particular solution, we need an action plan. Which doctor to go, how much money to take, where, where to, get advice as to who's the better doctor. Like that, we are going to devise a plan for our solution to, and where we should get medicines. Should I get it from the chemist? Should I get it online? There are a number of things which we will come to. So that action plan, that flow chart has to be prepared for a solution. That is stage 2. So devising a plan for solution, under which thinking of alternate ways to solve it, right? It is like multiple options, and then preparing a flow chart of solution. So after that multiple options, if you choose a particular option, you make a flow chart as to how you will access the solution, how you will go about the solution. Then stage 3. Stage 3 is simple, carry out the plan. Now that I have made a plan, I will have to carry out the plan. Right? I will, my plan is I take the auto, I go to Aster, and Aster I'm going to get to see the ENT. The ENT, I want only this particular ENT. I'll get the appointment, and then I will go and see the doctor. I will take the medications, go to the chemist, get the medicine, and according to whatever the doctor has said, morning before food, afternoon after food, whatever he has told, I will put the medication, take rest. In 3 days, I'll become all right and go back to office and get a different kind of headache. Okay, so carry out the plan. Then stage 4, looking back. Okay, looking back. Basically, what it says is you have done something, right? You have tried to make a solution. Okay, and you have executed the solution also. But whether the solution actually solved the problem or not, or whether it solved a certain amount of problem, and or did it create a new problem, we have to understand, right? So we have to look back and see, you know, as to whether verify that the problem solved was the one originally defined. So originally I had a problem, whether that problem got solved or not, right? We defined the problem in the beginning. So did that get solved or not? Okay. Second one is reasonableness. Reasonableness means reasonably, is there a good solution? Is this a good solution? Is it reasonably doable? Did I take the good route? Like that. Then criteria. Okay. So what are the various criteria which has been considered? Then constraint. What were the various problems or constraints or other rules and regulations? What were the things which were under which we had to work? Okay. And communicate results. Okay. So for example, so if you are okay, so like for example, you go to the doctor for a knee pain, okay, but when you went for the knee pain, did you come back with a solution for your knee pain? Did your knee pain go away? No, it didn't go away. I just came back with a diet plan for weight loss from my doctor. That means eventually when I lose 20 kgs and when I become lesser of weight, my knee will feel better and my knee pain will come down. Right? That is the elaborate story the doctor has told, and he sent me to a dietitian, and I got a big weight loss plan, and I came back home. But did my original problem get solved? My original problem was my knee was hurting, right? And it's still hurting. But after all that elaborate work I did to find the doctor and go and meet him and all and come back, my original problem was not solved, right? Can you understand? So verifying that the original problem was solved or not, right? And then like reasonableness. Okay, if you take it, actually it's reasonably correct. If I lose weight, definitely it will affect it's a long-term thing, is that if I lose weight, automatically my knee pain will come down. That is true. So that it doesn't seem like a bad thing that I came back with the diet sheet, and if I follow it, I will come there sometime, right? So that is reasonable. Fine. Okay. Although I did not solve that original problem, reasonably I did well. Okay. Then what are the criteria and constraints? The criteria were nothing but we just, I went for this thing, but then what do you say that I came back with what are the criteria by which we are evaluating this solution? like whether the problem was solved or not, whether it was too expensive, whether it was reasonable expensive, whether it was a good doctor or not. I went to the doctor as a part of solution, whether I did my research properly or not. You know, like that, what are the various criteria under which you are evaluating whether your solution was good or not, right? And then constraints. So why you are not able to do the optimum solution, right? Why you are not able to do the right solution? So what were the constraints? My constraints were, I had a budget constraint. I can only pay 500 rupees for an appointment with doctor. The best doctor might be charging 3,000 bucks and he stays across the city in Indranagar. But I don't have the thing. I can't travel 2 hours in this traffic and go to Indranagar. Plus I don't have the money to pay him 3,000 rupees for every visit, right? So it's a big constraint. So I go to a local doctor. And this local doctor has given me some solution which is not immediately helping me, but eventually it will help me. Correct? So the constraint is that my budget was a constraint, my time was a constraint. I was not able to do it in a very effective way. So the solution which I had chosen for my problem was not the effective solution because of certain constraints. What were those constraints? How you can tackle those constraints? Then communicate results. Communicate results. Anything that happens in our life, we have to communicate to our mother-in-law and our neighbors and our sister-in-laws and all this. So communicate results. What happened, we have to tell other people. They will do the evaluation. They will do the looking back and they'll tell you 1,000 things, how you could have done better. And you know, all those things. So that is what looking back and communicating results. See, when we communicate result, no, there is we don't have to do looking back. They will do all that for us and they will very nicely tell you 1,000 things where you went wrong and which will also be reasonably right. If we had asked them in the first place, we would have got all those ideas, but we won't ask because we don't like talking to people before. We only like to talk after. Okay, so that is
we can also call this as feedback. So whatever we get, what feedback we talk about. Using all that, whether we like the doctor, not like the doctor, and whatever you said, it's the thing which we are communicating using all these parameters.
Correct. Right. So they have given us a very nice information processing translation of Polya's stages. Okay. So this is like the first block which we read now about how we process information. So this is about that. How this whole thing, encoding the problem in working memory. So the problem is being put into our working memory. Search long-term memory for plan or production system. So then we go and access our long-term memory and see whether we had a problem like this before, whether, you know, there was any, you know, plan which we had done before, which had worked. Can we use that plan to solve the current problem? So we go and search our long-term memory, our past. Okay. Then execute the production system. So whatever we get from our long-term memory, we try to execute it and then evaluate the result. Then we see whether it worked for us this time or not, or whether we should change the strategy. So that is your information processing, you know, model, which they have given in the page number 70. Okay. So I think we can close with this. If anybody has any doubts, you let me know. Tomorrow we'll finish this chapter.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah.
So thereafter we start with lifespan, na?
Yeah.
From Thursday.
Schema will start that.
Yeah, now I'm suddenly feeling, how will I do my assignments if I prepare for classes? Problem हो गया.
Yeah, you have a one day off. सीमा, इसीलिए तो एक दिन का छुट्टी रखा है हमने बीच में. So don't worry.
When is the छुट्टी?
Wednesday, after tomorrow.
Okay, so fine. So Thursday, Friday. Yeah, that's a good idea. I can take it on Thursday.
Yeah. Friday. So I kept one day off. Oh, sorry. Let me just do this.